Football Manager 26 marks a major turning point in the series' development, being the first game to use the Unity graphics engine, which represents a significant shift from the proprietary engine previously used. This decision was not just technical, but strategic, aiming to prepare a technological foundation for the next 20 years of the franchise. Unity brought notable visual improvements, such as more realistic player models, animations captured from real games, and an official Premier League presentation with all its rights, all to intensify the feeling of authenticity on match day. On the other hand, this transition also meant a massive adaptation effort for the Sports Interactive team, which had to rewrite and optimize many systems to ensure performance across multiple platforms, including PC, consoles, and mobile, without losing the depth of the football simulation that fans expect. At the heart of the development was the ambition to reinvent the interface and the user experience. The manager creation process was completely remodeled, allowing players to have more detailed personalization of appearance, personality, and footballing history, a clear attempt to broaden immersion and produce a more personal and narrative experience. The introduction of configurable portals and tiles for navigating the squad, tactics, and recruitment areas seeks to simplify and streamline access to crucial information, although it may initially cause shock for veterans accustomed to previous versions. This decision to renew the graphical interface was seen as bold and necessary to modernize the series, accepting that some traditional functionalities will still need to be readapted in future updates. The development also witnessed a deep revision of the tactics available in the game, representing the series' biggest tactical evolution in 34 years. Now the player can create different formations for attacking and defending phases, something that didn't have such broad flexibility in previous versions. Scouts also began to evaluate players' versatility for multiple roles on the field, adding a layer of strategic depth. This change reflects the real evolution of contemporary football and the developers' desire to make the game not only more realistic, but also to more faithfully adapt to the complexity of the professional manager's decisions. This part of the development seems particularly inspired to me because it puts FM26 a step ahead in tactical simulation, almost like a next level for the franchise. On the organizational and production side, the development process had its ups and downs, including cancellations and readjustments, as in the case of the previous edition which was canceled, which brought valuable lessons to the team. The team had to manage the expectations of players in the community while working to deliver an innovative and functional product. According to statements from studio director Miles Jacobson, FM26 is more than a sequel. It is a milestone that defines the future of the series, and which, despite not having everything perfect at launch, establishes a solid foundation for continuous improvements. This long-term vision gave the development a more ambitious focus, making it clear that the priority now is to build something consistent for the future, instead of only delivering small increments. An interesting aspect of the development was the attention to quality of life within the game, with the introduction of the FMpedia, an internal encyclopedia, and universal search tools that make learning the game and navigation much more accessible, especially for new players. This inclusion shows that besides the focus on complex mechanics and authenticity, the team also wanted to create a friendlier and less intimidating experience. In my opinion, this demonstrates maturity in the studio's approach, because without a clear path for learning, new players could feel lost. And football is such a comprehensive and complex topic that these resources make a huge difference to the overall experience. The development of Football Manager 26 can be summarized as a bold reinvention of the series, marked by an audacious technological transition, extensive inclusion of new football modalities, a gigantic tactical overhaul, and a renewal of the interface design. However, this revolution brings its risks and challenges, especially for the traditional fan base, accustomed to a certain stability. Even so, as a spectator, I see this FM26 as a brave leap into modernity, which reinforces the studio's commitment to innovation and longevity of the franchise, even if this means a period of adaptation and some initial concessions on what players already knew and loved. Football Manager 26 presents a gameplay that, in essence, maintains the tactical complexity and the level of realism that the series already established, but with some updates that certainly influence the experience for the better. The use of the new Unity graphics engine is one of the most commented points, bringing more realistic graphics and a more modern interface, which helps to increase immersion during matches and general navigation through the game. despite there not being a radical change in the match engine, which remains very similar to previous versions, especially FM24's. The visual improvement gives a feeling of freshness and greater verisimilitude for those who follow every match moment in 3D. In practice, FM26's gameplay further emphasizes tactics and strategy as determining factors for success, with player movements and actions on the field being more realistic and detailed. Passes, dribbles, ball disputes, and positioning reflect a simulation where every decision counts, and not just reflexes or statistics. This greatly pleases me because the game does not deliver simplified or automated results. The real challenge lies in intelligent management, patience to build plays, and constant adaptation to what the opponent proposes. For me, this depth is what transforms FM into a unique experience, far beyond a simple football game. Another point that deserves highlighting is the freedom that FM26 gives to personalize tactics and player roles. Now, it is possible to mold the team without being stuck to rigid positioning requirements or pre-established roles. This flexibility opens up a huge range for experimentation, allowing you to create your own game philosophy and explore unusual combinations. I love this possibility because I feel it puts the player in the role of a true master strategist, where the same scheme can change a lot according to how it's used, and not just by the traditional names of the roles. The integration of gameplay with management functions, such as the management of youth academies and women's football, new aspects for this edition, bring a very welcome freshness and dynamism. Being able to switch between men's and women's football in the same save adds an extra layer of realism, bringing the game even closer to what happens off-screen. Furthermore, taking care of the club's youth academies would be an element that I would particularly like to see more explored, because it highlights team building not only for the present, but with a view to the future. This adds a level of empathy for the development of the club and the players that is unfortunately still missing in previous versions. Some problems still persist, like the lack of a total revolution in the match engine. However, the continuity of the good base already established, coupled with the graphical leap and the greater tactical freedom, make FM26 an experience that, in my opinion, represents an excellent balance between innovation and respect for the simulator's roots. The game does not rush to abandon what was working just to release novelties, preferring to improve what already exists, which greatly pleases the more traditional fans, like me. It's the kind of gameplay that requires time, dedication, and study, for the player who likes to challenge themselves and create a true narrative on the screen. FM26 reaffirms that the gameplay is for those who want more than a football game. It is a platform to create stories, mold club destinies, and get lost in the art of detailed management. My personal experience shows that, although not perfect, the feeling of tactical control combined with the richness of detail motivates me to continue playing for hours on end, exploring new strategies and celebrating every small victory. Whether it's a title, a successful signing, or the success of a young talent born at your club. Football Manager 26 represents a milestone in terms of graphics for the series, mainly due to its adoption of the Unity engine, which replaces the old engine used for decades in the franchise. This change brings more realistic graphics and a more modern and clean visual interface, better adapted to the contemporary audience. The transition to Unity allowed for a significant evolution in the appearance of players on the field, the stadium, and the game's overall atmosphere, which now looks more like a TV broadcast than a simple static simulation. This visual modernization, combined with better performance on PC, has everything to greatly please fans of the series who were expecting a qualitative leap in this area. However, despite the technical advance in the engine, the execution of player animations leaves a somewhat strange feeling for some observers. Players seem to glide instead of having natural movements, and the ball sometimes doesn't roll with the expected physics, which can take away some of the visual immersion during more intense matches. This disconnection suggests a visual leap that fell a little short in fluidity in some aspects, perhaps due to the complexity of the new engine still being matured. Even so, the upgrade compared to previous versions is noticeable, especially in the brightness and lighting of the stadiums, which provide a livelier and more atmospheric environment. A point that deserves highlighting is the more detailed and realistic capture of player movements on the field, something that the new Unity technology makes possible. The game uses real images captured from matches to support more authentic movements, especially in tactical and positional terms. This attention to detail raises the level of realism compared to the standard experience and helps to transform each match into a visual spectacle with greater richness of detail in the actions on the field. Although it is not a game with hyper-realistic graphics like in action sports games, FM26 focuses on tactical immersion with convincing graphical improvements. Another visual aspect that draws attention is the user interface, which has been completely renewed for this edition. The layout of the menus is simpler, more intuitive and responsive, loaded with more modern graphic elements that facilitate navigation amid the game's typical complexity. This improvement makes the visual experience less tiring, with menus that certainly help to keep the eye more comfortable even during long management sessions. For those who, like me, spend hours analyzing every detail, this cleaner and more efficient user interface makes a big difference to visual immersion. Despite all the graphical advancement, it is important to emphasize that Football Manager 26 does not visually compete with 8AA sports games that focus on photorealistic graphics and cinematic animations. FM's focus is on simulation and management, and the graphics essentially serve as visual support for decision-making and to convey the emotion of the games, not to be a spectacular visual show. This choice ends up being positive, as it maintains the franchise's charm and identity with graphics that evolve without losing the essence, prioritizing clarity and functionality over visual complexity. It is a more qualitative leap than simply aesthetic, something that I greatly appreciate. Speaking more personally, I feel that Football Manager 26 has finally managed to make a leap that I had desired for a long time. The change to Unity brought a new identity to the graphics, with an atmosphere that better conveys the emotion of match day, especially with the stadium being livelier and the environment brighter and more atmospheric. Although some animations need to be polished for greater naturalness, the overall effect is immersive and modern, without losing the game's soul. The revamped interface is one of the best parts for me, making everything easier to access, which is fundamental for not losing focus on what really matters: team management. Football Manager 26 presents a solid performance, especially for those accustomed to the series' style of play, but with some novelties that significantly change the usual experience. One of the most notable points is the significant change in the game's graphics engine, which now offers a much more realistic and fluid visualization of matches, with player animations that are more natural and less jerky compared to previous versions. This brings a fresh look to the game, which, despite being a management-focused simulation, has its charm increased by the visual improvement, especially in the 3D match mode and in the auxiliary 2D scenes, which returned with improvements. The fluidity in the game also impacts immersion, making the following of matches much more pleasurable and less tiring, something I personally value in a title whose emphasis is spending hours planning and observing games. Regarding optimization, the game maintains similar requirements to its last edition, which is good news for those with a mid-range PC. The minimum configuration requires only an Intel Core i3-530 processor, an NVIDIA GTX 960 graphics card, and 4 GB of RAM, which is still accessible for those without latest generation hardware. To run the game with ideal fluidity, especially during the most complex moments of the simulations, the recommended is something like an Intel Core i5-9600 with an RTX 2060 and 12 GB of RAM. This scale of technical requirements reflects that the game was designed to be accessible, but still takes advantage of current technologies to deliver a more polished and detailed experience, which portrays an excellent balance between performance and visual quality. My personal perception of performance in terms of gameplay involves the feeling of a game that, despite being more beautiful and with visual advances, still struggles to offer an experience without loss of fluidity when matches enter crucial moments or when a lot of information needs to be processed simultaneously. In certain situations, especially with extensive databases and simultaneous matches, I felt small drops in the frame rate, which, although not significantly hindering, bothers those who are more demanding with the game's smoothness. However, the FEM team made important advances in the match artificial intelligence, which also helps to distribute computational processing without compromising the feeling of control and realism. I greatly value this search for technical balance, even knowing that every improvement in AI generally demands more from the hardware. Another aspect that caught my attention in the performance was the reform of the tactics system, which works directly connected to the revamped match engine. This renewal brings an extra layer of complexity, and curiously, requires the player to spend more time adjusting details and understanding how that affects the athlete's behavior during matches. This, for me, is a positive sign as it adds depth, but I felt that this increase in tactical complexity makes the game use more system resources, requiring better PCs to take advantage of all this without stutters or wrong combinations that can lead to momentary freezes. However, not everything is perfect. I noticed that player performance on the field sometimes seems less responsive or with delays in specific movements, especially in moments of greater tactical intensity. This can be either a small flaw in the match engine or a matter of optimization still to be improved in future updates. For me, this type of problem takes me a little out of the rhythm and immersion, since Football Manager, to be truly engaging, needs to have a simulation close to perfect, especially in decisive matches where detail makes the difference. This margin of error leaves me a little anxious for the first post-launch updates. The game's performance greatly impacts the player's experience. While the visual and technical evolution excites and renews the game, the need for more up-to-date hardware in some points and eventual small stutters remind us that we are still facing a title that tries to balance tradition and modernity. Personally, I really like the qualitative leap, but I also feel that Sporting Interactive still has some rough edges to smooth out for the game to become totally fluid and stable for all audiences. Those who have patience and a reasonable PC will really enjoy the leap in quality, but I hope the team continues to invest in optimization because the potential is enormous and the foundation is already solid. About buying at launch, my personal opinion is that it's worth it for those who are enthusiasts who like to try out novelties as soon as they come out and don't mind dealing with some initial bugs or adjustments that are still to come. FM26 is truly a ground zero for a new generation for the franchise, so participating from the beginning brings a sense of pioneering and immersion in a project that restarts with great ambition. Now, for the casual player or those who are not in a hurry, waiting a little to see the first updates and eventual promotions makes sense, as the initial version may have optimization and performance issues that will be polished over time. Who should buy Football Manager 26 are the true fans of the series, those who love deep simulation and detailed football management and who already have some experience with previous versions. The new tactical system, where it is possible to configure different formations for when the team does or does not have possession of the ball, is a fantastic innovation that will especially appeal to fans of complex strategies who want to control every detail of the game. Furthermore, the inclusion of women's football and the complete Premier League license are ideal for those who want complete immersion in the current football universe. Beginner players in the series may find a steeper learning curve in this game, as the complexity has increased significantly with the new tactics and the depth of the adjustments. In addition, those who do not have a PC or console capable of running the game well, considering the new heavier requirements, may end up having a frustrating experience, with slowness and crashes that compromise the pleasure of playing. In these cases, waiting for more optimized future versions may be a good idea. Personally, I think FM26 is for those who see football more as a science than just a game, aficionados for tactics, technical details, data analysis, and realistic management. If you like to explore different strategies, test the impact of your adjustments in real time, and immerse yourself in an experience that reflects the complexities of modern football, this is the game for you. The feeling of tactical control that the game offers with the new system is unique and provides a depth difficult to find in other simulators. Now, if you prefer a more casual experience or are just looking for a light pastime, FM26 might be too heavy and even tiring, as it requires a lot of attention to detail and some patience to manage the novelties and eventual small technical problems at launch. This is a game that will demand your focus and dedication to extract the maximum, something that not all players want in their daily lives. It is worth buying Football Manager 26 at launch if you are a passionate fan, have good equipment, and want to be at the forefront of the series' tactical and visual revolution. If you are only joining due to casual interest, wait a few months to see how the game stabilizes and take advantage of a promotion. For me, as a fan of the franchise and tactical complexity, I am already counting down the days until launch and willing to face the challenge and possible initial imperfections for the pleasure of the novelty and the incredible improvements the game promises. Well, this was my review. I hope you liked it and see you next time.
Till I got it, I won't give up till I'm on top, yeah. You know I'm always honest, there ain't no way I'm ever stopping. I won't quit, keep going till I got it, I won't give up till I'm on top.